I don't support Hamas. Do you support Hamas?
No.
I don't support Israel. Do you support Israel?
Yes.
So well, that's what we're going to talk about.
If Israel wanted to exterminate the Palestinian people, they could have done it in 3 months.
That's the worst argument you've ever made in all the time I've I'll tell you
Correct.
why. Vladimir Putin could have erased everyone in Ukraine with a nuke.
No, it's not Israel's policy to target civilians. Israel has gone out of their way not to.
335.
Watch how Mehdi Hassan exposes ex-Congressman Joe Walsh's blatant hypocrisy when speaking about the Israeli genocide ongoing in Gaza. Mehdi masterfully breaks down each of Joe Walsh's arguments, leaving him raging, ultimately destroying any credibility that slimy Walsh could have.
An opponent of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, going as far as to call it a genocide. But when it comes to Gaza, you've criticized people for calling Gaza a genocide. Why is that, Joe? Why is what's happening in Ukraine a genocide, but not what's happening in Gaza, when far more people have been killed and displaced in Gaza than in Ukraine?
I think it goes to motive and intent. I think Putin is trying to kill, and he has been for 3 years, Ukrainian civilians, kidnapping Ukrainian children. His intent is to kill civilians. You and I can arm wrestle. I don't think that's Israel's intent at all. I think Israel...
Even though Israeli government members have said far more genocidal stuff than Vladimir Putin has.
Completely. There are extreme members of Israel's government.
Not just extreme members, the president, the prime minister.
There always have been. But
the president and prime minister of the country
I know,
have said stuff that Vladimir Putin has not said about Ukraine. And yet Joe Walsh, if you said neither's a genocide, then I'd be fine. We'd move on. We'll talk about other things about Gaza. What I find fascinating is that you're happy to say genocide here, but if you say it there, you get mad. I don't get it.
Well, I don't get mad. I just think...
You do. I've seen some of your tweets.
I just think Putin's intent is to eliminate the Ukrainian people.
Based on what? His words?
Based on his actions.
Why is Israel
targeted?
I don't know about you guys, but you'd think the deliberate bombing of hospitals, schools, universities, and entire neighborhoods without showing any evidence of terrorists would be enough to show the evil intentions of the Israeli government. But I guess in Walsh's eyes, it's all justified since Israel can't do anything bad. Watch how Mehdi calls out his hypocrisy.
Members have said far more genocidal stuff than Vladimir Putin has.
Completely. There are extreme members of Israel's government.
Not just extreme members, the president, the prime minister.
There always have been. But
the president and prime minister of the country
I know,
have said stuff that Vladimir Putin has not said about Ukraine. And yet Joe Walsh, if you said neither's a genocide, then I'd be fine. We'd move on. We'll talk about other things about Gaza. What I find fascinating is that you're happy to say genocide here, but if you say it there, you get mad. I don't get it.
Well, I don't get mad. I just think...
You do. I've seen some of your tweets.
I just think Putin's intent is to eliminate the Ukrainian people.
Based on what? His words?
Based on his actions.
Why is Israel's words and actions not the same?
Israel's actions and words, again, you can find some, but Israel's...
I could read you dozens. I'd be here all day if I started reading out all the genocidal statements from Israeli ministers.
I can find you a more history
Just a few days ago,
Just
a few days ago, the Deputy Speaker of the Israeli Parliament, a senior member of the Likud party, Netanyahu's party, said that the Palestinian civilians, his words, civilians, are scum, subhuman, and the women and children should be separated so that men can all be killed. That is stuff that Milosevic said. That is stuff I've not even heard Putin say. I don't hear Joe Walsh condemning that as genocidal.
Well, I would condemn that, and I will condemn that statement.
That's a genocidal statement.
That is a genocidal statement. I'm saying, Mehdi, that is a very minority view overall in Israel. Oh, my God, in Israel's government and among the Israeli people.
Well, put the Israeli people to one side. There's many polls. The Israeli government consists of Netanyahu and Smotrich and Amichai Eliyahu, who said, let's drop a nuke on Gaza.
That's not the majority. You think...
That is the Israeli government, Joe. They're the people killing the Palestinians right now.
You think
creating the post-war plan to wipe out the Palestinians with Trump to get rid of them from the place. All genocidal.
Is it Israel's intent to target and kill Palestinian civilians?
100%, yes.
You believe it has? That's been their intent from day one after October 7th.
They've said it, Joe. The guy I just quoted to you, the Deputy Speaker of the Parliament said, let's kill all the adult men in Gaza.
And I'm
so you're just putting your hands in your ears?
No, I'm telling you that's a minority view. That's not the majority.
Okay, Benjamin Netanyahu said they are Amalek. What is Amalek, Joe? In the Bible, Amalek is kill everybody. Men, women, children, even the donkeys. That's what Netanyahu said.
Mehdi,
I didn't hear Putin say that.
Mehdi, again, I can find extreme things that members of Israel's government has said.
Yeah,
If Israel,
that counts as intent, and that's why they're at the ICJ, and that's why ICJ is investigating him. That's why some of Israel's leading Holocaust scholars have said it's a genocide.
If Israel wanted to exterminate the Palestinian people, they could have done it in 3 months.
That's the
I mean, really, that's your argument. Israel could have killed more people if they wanted to, so therefore what they're doing is an evil. Imagine a serial killer saying, "Your Honor, I'm not a murderer, because I only killed 6 people when I could have killed 10. Let's take a look at Joe Walsh's view on human rights and whether Israel has violated them.
civilians. I do want to ask you because
I love being with you.
No, but I want to ask you because I want to deal with actual substantive stuff.
But that is substantive
No, it's
stuff.
that's opinion. I want to deal with fact.
Oh my God.
It is opinion about who provoked who. We can get into that. I will come to that, I promise. But just dealing with this, I just want to deal with human. Because the reason I want to talk to you about the subject is because at home in the US, I see you caring about human rights, civil liberties, democracy, fascism. And then I see Israel, you're on the wrong side completely. So when I look at, for example, that destruction, I don't think you would defend that if it wasn't Israel that was doing it. Similarly, 6-year-old Hind Rajab, you always say Hamas, Hamas, Hamas. This is the great excuse for Israel committing war crimes. You have a 6-year-old girl, Hind Rajab, infamously killed in a car with her 4 cousins, her uncle and aunt, all killed by an Israeli tank that was firing at them. She makes a 911 call. Very, very tragic, horrific call. They send 2 paramedics, the Palestinians, to rescue her. The Israelis killed the paramedics as well in the ambulance. Sky News, the Washington Post have all debunked the Israeli denials that their tank wasn't in the area at the time. The UK independent investigators, Forensic Architecture, they looked at it and said that the Israelis fired 335 bullets into this car and that the tank driver had to have seen that there were children sitting in this car. How do you defend that, Joe?
I don't.
You do. I've got a quote from you that says, Israel deserves immense praise for winning this war as carefully as they can. Would you say that to the remaining family members?
No, let me finish.
Would you say that to their faces of Hind Rajab's family?
Oh, God, no. Mehdi, look, I defend the way Israel... Let me finish.
In abstract, which is why I give specific.
No, I
know how people do this. Abstract.
No.
Specific.
So let me address both.
Yeah.
I agree. Broadly speaking, I defend the way Israel has fought this war, acknowledging that, and let me finish this thought, that mistakes are made in every war, and that there are purposeful, indefensible acts made even by the IDF and any military. And that's an example of one. And this is...
So you're agreeing then that in this war that you support, Israel has committed war crimes?
I agree. Purposeful... Yes, mistakes have been made.
No, not mistakes.
I'm not going to...
Mistake is, I shot that person, I didn't mean to shoot that person. A war crime is, I deliberately killed a civilian, which you seemed to concede for a moment, and then you pulled back.
No, hold on. I don't know that I'm going to call it a war crime.
The fact that Joe Walsh struggles to admit that shooting 335 bullets into a family isn't a war crime tells us all we need to know. How can anyone look at something as disgusting as that and struggle to call it a war crime? Walsh wants us to believe shooting 335 bullets from a tank into a car filled with innocent people is a mistake. I'm sorry, but a mistake is getting someone's order wrong or forgetting to do something for someone. Not brutally massacring a family who posed no threat.
335 bullets fired into a car with children. Is that a war crime?
I don't. You know what? Could be. Investigate it. But God damn it,
it was investigated, Joe.
This is what Hamas does all the time.
Joe,
hiding behind civilians is a war crime. You know what slays me about you?
By the way, you said I see you say this all the time.
What?
Hiding behind civilians. And yet, when Israelis actually use Palestinians as human shields, you don't say anything. Last week, it emerged. I checked your Twitter, Joe. You can correct me.
What?
Last week, it emerged that an 80-year-old man, Israeli press reported, was being used as a human shield. They were taking him into houses, putting him in front of them, an actual human shield. Right? They were using a Palestinian man.
But
they've done that many times. Do you know they've said?
They've done that
let me finish a sentence. They send Palestinians into tunnels in Gaza. Have you condemned that as have you condemned that as a use of human shield?
Was not aware of it, and if I was aware of it, I'd condemn it.
It's all over the Israeli press.
Why are you not acknowledging that this is Hamas's policy, and this has been their policy from day one?
What I acknowledge about Hamas is irrelevant because I don't support Hamas.
Let me hear you say it.
I don't support Hamas. Do you support Hamas? Do you support Hamas?
No.
Do you support Hamas?
No.
I don't support Hamas. So that's done. Do I support Israel?
Stop for a minute.
Can I finish a sentence?
No.
Can I finish a sentence?
Not when you don't let me finish sentences.
Joe, let me finish mine, but I promise I'll let you give a long answer. I'll give you a long answer if you let me finish this one sentence. I don't support Hamas. Do you support Hamas?
No.
I don't support Israel. Do you support Israel?
Yes.
So, well, that's what we're going to talk about. Now, when I
Stop!
ask
No.
It's very simple. You're here to support Israel.
No, but stop. But Hamas.
Why would I talk about someone we both disagree
Hamas
with?
has been the governing entity in Gaza for how many years? So yes, you do need to talk about Hamas because Hamas did what they did on October 7th.
And we've condemned it. Do we
Hamas
both condemn
has a
that?
history. Do you condemn? Yes. Do you condemn?
But you're not condemning Israeli war crimes. That's what I don't understand. You're trying to dodge it with whataboutism about Hamas. It's a very simple question. I can keep going. Let's play a clip here. Let's play a clip for you to watch. We got a clip of a grandmother. Here's a grandmother. Maybe you're not aware of this one. This is a Palestinian grandmother in her 50s. She's holding a child, right, in her arms. He's got a white flag. She's shot in cold blood by an Israeli sniper who's...
Mehdi, I don't know what the hell that was. That's not... How do I know?
It's a sniper who shot at a Palestinian grandmother.
Mehdi, you invite me on, you show me a clip of that, and you tell me what it is. I'm sorry, okay, I'm not familiar with that. Okay? I'd like to know what that is. I'm not familiar with that.
You know I can go through multiple examples, right? You know that. I can start reading multiple examples. The Al-Dos family in Gaza, whose apartment building was bombed. We can go through each and every example.
But where you and I will disagree is this. And I'm telling you, this is ugly, and it's horrible, and it's unfortunate.
It's war crimes.
It's not Israel's policy to target civilians. Israel has gone out of their way not to. They are fighting an opposition, Mehdi, that has a history of doing the exact opposite.
You say they don't have a policy of doing that.
And see, you won't acknowledge that.
Well. No surprise, Walsh starts raging the minute he's confronted about his unwavering defense of Israel. It seems every time Israel commits a war crime in his eyes, it's always Hamas that's responsible. Even with blatant evidence in front of his eyes, Walsh can't admit that Israel is deliberately targeting civilians.
No, let me... Damn it, Mehdi, would you ask a fuck? Then don't ask it 4 times. Yes,
Answer it the first time, and I don't have to repeat it.
Do me a favor, stop, let me speak.
Please.
Yes, there's starvation in Gaza, but gosh darn it, Israel has gone out of their way to allow aid in. And who's stopped the aid? I mean, for 2-3 years, who's robbed the aid trucks and all the aid coming in? Hamas. Terrorists.
According to the US government, the Biden administration you supported, they didn't present evidence of Hamas.
Oh, gosh, yes, they did.
There were criminal gangs that Israel actually supports, according to the Israeli press. But let me ask you this, because you're very supportive of Israel. That's why I want to do this interview, and then you don't want to actually defend them. You want to make it about Hamas. Just before, I got to ask you this.
I do. No, stop. I defend the way Israel's fought this war.
Even though,
period.
Even though every example I've given, you say you condemn it, but at the end you still support them.
Even though there are examples of outrageous and atrocious behavior.
I had Ehud Olmert.
It's not the policy of the IDF
I've had Ehud Olmert. By the way, whether it's your policy or not, a war crime is a war crime, Joe, by the way, just to break that to you. It doesn't matter what your policy is. If you commit a war crime, that's a crime. That's just so you know international law. I've had Ehud Olmert on the show, former Prime Minister of Israel. I've had Ami Ayalon on the show, former head of Shin Bet, on that screen. And they've supported Israel, but they've also criticized Israel's, in many ways, in a way I don't hear someone like you criticizing Israel. You tweeted recently, I'll swim across the ocean to defend Israel. You're very gung-ho in your support for Israel in a way that Israelis are not. They're like, our country is messing up big time. And then there's you. I haven't heard you criticize so many things Israel are doing. You are today, because I've asked you to. But I went through your Twitter thread. I went through your Twitter, Joe.
No.
Let me just ask you.
Mehdi,
I just want to ask, just want to check your views.
I don't.
So let's check, so viewers know your views. So
generally, I don't.
You don't criticize Israel?
No, I will, but generally, I don't.
So, for example, 40,000 Palestinians in the West Bank have been driven from their homes. The Israelis said you can't come back. That's a war crime. Do you condemn that? Just in the last few weeks. Do you criticize that?
What do you mean they've been driven from their homes?
They've been pushed out by the Israeli military. 40,000 people, the size of a town in your old district in Illinois, just gone. And they've been told you cannot come back. Netanyahu's sitting in their house in a photo. You would go mad if Vladimir Putin was sitting in a Ukrainian home.
Mehdi, I don't understand what... Pull back for a minute. After October 7th, what would you have had Israel?
The West Bank has nothing to do with October 7th. That's why I specifically asked about the West Bank, because I know you're obsessed with going back to October 7th. Hamas as if the world began.
I'm sorry.
The West Bank. Hamas does not run the West Bank.
I didn't know you were talking about the West Bank.
I'm talking about the West Bank. 40,000 people driven from their homes by violent settlers. You've been watching the violent settlers, crazy people. I assume you don't agree with them. They make Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump look moderate, the far-right Israeli settlers.
They are as close as we've got to radical Islamist terrorists.
And they are driving people out of their homes, 40,000 people. Do you condemn that? I've not seen you say a word about that on your social media and your shows. That's happening right now. I don't hear you criticizing Israel for it.
I don't.
You don't criticize Israel for driving 40,000 people from their homes?
No, I don't. Look, Israel has to... They're not going to make the same mistake they made in Gaza. This
They're
I
doing
want to know
exactly what
how
they're
much
doing in Gaza, actually.
AIPAC must be
They're
paying this
displacing people
clown
from
to
their
jump
homes.
around for them like this. Walsh is denying more claims than baby mamas in America asking for child support. It's crazy that he doesn't realize the hoops he's jumping through to defend Netanyahu and his government to the point you almost feel sorry for him. He's like a little puppy doing all the tricks it knows to get a treat. Mehdi did a fantastic job showing his hypocrisy. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Make sure to like and subscribe for more of me exposing clowns.